Okay, everybody. I probably have a bigger voice, so I'm going to get everybody here. And let's consider that between coffee and my speech, coffee is much more interesting. But let's go there. You will wonder why TNT, speaking here specifically on the Pakistani side, where we are obviously very, very small. The reality is that I've been asked to give you more an idea of where digital is going, where our sector is going. It was good to follow GSMA as a speech, because I think Manny started to have a good position there. And let me start first to thank Amjad, Jan, and the whole team of ACRE for this event. And I have to be honest, organizing a telecom event, a discussion event in a so beautiful place, it's a great idea. When I talked to my son yesterday that was going to London, he was looking at me saying, okay, the usual boring thing, you're going and government stuff nobody will like. And I said, no, I'm going to the Chelsea. And my son looked at me and said, Papa, the only thing I want is a photo of the pitch. So I have to get that photo before I go back. And starting from this, I'm Italian, okay, even if I'm called Karim, because my mother is Tunisian. But when I come here, I'm really envious, because I'm a Roma fan, and I don't know how many of you guys went to Rome. If you go to Rome and you go to see our stadium, and you come here, you say, okay, I understand. And we have been fighting for getting a new stadium for years, and we still don't have a stadium. While the UK have been able to do this, 15 years ago now? And why I'm starting with the stadium, it's exactly this. It's transformation. It's how people have been able to adapt to the transformation and to look at football or soccer, if we want to use the American way of calling it, in order to transform the industry. So we move from a country that was leading in football a few years ago. There was a time where you had only Italians playing all the time, to a country following, just because we have not been able to get to that transformation. So I think this is a good one to look at. And we are just coming back with Ulf, that will be in the panel just after, from Barcelona, where we had the Mobile World Congress last week. Looks like it was already a month ago. And if you look at what happened this year, and what happened 10 years ago when we were walking around, you understand the whole transformation that you had in the industry. 10 years ago, everything was about telecom, carrier, and etc. This year, everything was about virtual reality, entertainment. And it's only 10 years ago. And in those 10 years, I think we had probably 4 technological revolutions led by Ericsson, that is here, that you will listen later. And that gives you a good idea of the difficulty that you have in our industry. Everybody says all the time, what is a precondition to invest? What is a precondition to attract your company, and etc. The reality is that precondition is trying to anticipate where you're going to go, where the industry is moving, where the sector is moving, before doing anything else. And I think this is the biggest challenge everybody has. If you think to my company, we were pure telecom. Everybody knows us as a telecom operator. In the last 3 years, we have transformed the company totally, moving from a pure telecom operators to a whole entertainment company. We started acquiring a satellite operator called DirecTV. We launched new OTT services in the US called DirecTV Now, that you can watch online without anything else. And now, obviously, as maybe most of you know, we are trying to acquire another company called Time Warner, who is a big entertainment group. But the reality is that why is this happening is because the sector is transforming. Everything is transforming. You cannot stay where you are, exactly like football was transforming 15 years ago, and we probably forgot it, at least in my home country, at least in my home stadium, because if you come, just a room like this in Rome is impossible to imagine to have in the stadium. So imagine you have that asset that stayed there for the whole week empty, and is used only once a week, just for the game. So the only revenue getting in there is for the game, nothing else during the week. So what happened to the team? That team get poorer and poorer compared to other teams. Like here, I don't know what is the revenue of Chelsea, but it's probably like 10 times more than the revenue of Rome. And the funny thing is that the people are trying to run after, but then they get over a lot of regulatory complication that are blocking the revolution. And this is the challenge. How you ensure that the regulatory blocks are taken away in order to be able to let industry, startups, creators to move there. This is for me the biggest challenge. Think to our sector. A few years ago, I don't know how many, but I'm sure there are people here that know what a Nokia, sorry if I use Nokia, Ulf, but remember what the Nokia communicator is. I don't know if you remember the fantastic brick. I remember, it was something like this, And I remember the brick because it was 2000 or 99. Having a brick was representing the top evolution of technology. Today, look at your phones. Okay, I don't have my phones on me. I'll bear to have the phones. But all those phones, you can do everything with it. It's not a phone anymore. You can watch films, you can do all your accounts, you can do whatever you want. And this is a revolution. Because today, from calls, we became video companies. 60% of the traffic on our network is video. Thus is going to move to 70%. What does it mean? Huge investments. You need to have huge investments in order to be able to continue to offer those services to your customers, to the startups that you guys are trying to attract. Without a real network, you don't go anywhere. And today we are on 4G, but we're already talking about 5G. We are starting our trials with Ericsson on 5G in the US. And then you will have a 6G and 7G and whatever, because they need to sell, so they do all this. So Ulf is happy with us. But what does it mean? It means that it's a constant evolution. And no company can lose it. No company can stop and say, I am good now. Everybody needs to reinvent itself. And this is the challenge for everybody, from the big corporation like us to the little startup. What I love about Barcelona, I don't know how many of you have been to the Mobile World Congress, is that you have the huge companies and the huge stands from the global manufacturers, but you also have a lot of small startups from all over the world. And this is the most beautiful thing. I told you my father was Italian, but my mother is coming from a little island called Gerba. Gerba, probably you don't even know where it is. It's a little island that is referenced in a lot of historical places because Ulisse went through Gerba a long time ago. But the reality is that the biggest challenge of Gerba has been every time once, connectivity. We were a great business place. We were doing a lot of money because we were traders from gold, from spices, and etc. And then we missed the technological revolution of internet. So today it's very difficult to run a business from that island. But that island is a little example of a lot of other islands around the world. Not only in developing countries, if we can call them developing countries. I don't like too much that word, but it's better than underdeveloped, that I think was even worse. But the reality is that if you go to the US in some rural areas, you also have places where challenges is. And this is exactly what Ajit Pai, who is the new chairman of the FCC, so the US regulator, specifically referenced in his speech in Barcelona. And I just want to read you that quote. I never read quotes, but I just want to read you that quote because what he says is this: being successful does not require you to move to Silicon Valley or Stockholm or Seoul or any other tech hub around the world. There are opportunities in every city, in every corner of the world, if, and this is a big if, you have high-speed access to the internet. So this is exactly the point, wherever you are. We can try to set up strategies, we can try to do whatever we want, but if you don't have the backbone and you don't have that capacity, it's very difficult to attract people. You have to have the market. If a genius from whatever countries decide to invent something, it will look like where he will have the best incentive to develop his company. It can be financial, but it can be also customer. And this is the whole discussions about creating this European Union digital single market. It's trying to have a kind of a similar competing area, and the same come everywhere else. I manage Europe and Latin America in the company. Latin America, one of the biggest challenges, language. Okay, in Europe that challenge is also bigger, but also market. Our markets are integrated. Our customs are integrated. A lot of those issues that people often don't look at are challenges for business. Specific is for smaller. Bigger companies are able to handle things in a different way because we have bigger team. Smaller have really difficulties. The other point is disruption. Thinking that you can do the things in a rapid way. I like using Mexico because Mexico has been a country I've been focusing a lot in the last years, just because the company made a huge investment there. And the reality is that the government that arrived in power 4 years ago, what they have done is that they have just done structural changes in order to attract investments. And it worked very well. Some people say they were lucky. I say they were very good. They have done some real changes that prove to the investors this is a good place to come to invest. And I think that's the big trick that you need to look at. Best case example. Capital is global. It goes wherever there is the best return. And this is every time what we need to look at. People who have looked at Mexico 10 years ago probably will not say it will be where it is today. And this is something that people should watch. But okay. I look at another country, my beautiful country, the other one. The one that let me being in Europe. I'm joking, it's Italy. And I look at Italy, how beautiful is the country. Everybody loves Italy, okay? Nobody can say Italy is not a beautiful place, except with the stadiums. But you look at our country and you see that almost 88% of the population will be ready to move in order to find a better job. And they will be ready to move out of their country. You imagine we give us our mama, our pasta asciutta, to go back to come to live in the UK where it's raining all the time, or to Belgium like me where it's raining all the time? No, but you cannot imagine. It's very complicated for an Italian. My wife still probably hates me for that reason because we live in Belgium instead of being at the sun in Rome. But the reality is that why is this? It's attractiveness. So people went to live there because it's attractive. What are the most attractive market today to live in? Probably UK. Okay, how many Italians live here? I think the latest number was 500,000 Italians were living here. Now we know all those numbers because obviously with Brexit we start calculating how many are coming back and etc. So that's going to be a funny one. But if you look on the second side, then you start looking what are the new countries where it's nice to go to live. You start seeing countries that you would not expect. Poland, Switzerland, and etc. growing very well on the graduation. Italy still back because we have not been able to do those reforms that we have been trying to look again. And it's a pity for our country. If you look at, I was seeing at the photo of the Accra team, and this is great. I love when I come here and I see those photos. I was seeing one of my idols was Margaret Thatcher. And it's great to come here and to see that and to remember that, if you don't have the courage to take the right decision, you will never be able to get your country more competitive. And I think that's really what needs to be done today. If you don't go there, you will have struggles. I'm not reading, but I'm sorry, Alberto, but I'm almost getting there. But what should we try to avoid? What are the main things that you want to avoid compared to the normal paradigm that you see when you go in the typical discussions in Davos, in Barcelona, or in whatever big conference we are going to look at? You want to avoid incrementalism, okay? You want to avoid that the vision that we can just do a little more and we will be better. The idea that we can grow using what is there. You want to avoid that, okay? You want to avoid the risk adversity. The idea that failure is a problem. In my country, failure is a huge issue. If you fail, there is something negative about it. I go to the US and you see the approach to risk adversity, not only for a person that is able to fail and restart, but also on the financial side. He fails, he can find again capital with a new idea. This is something huge that we need to remember is there. You need to avoid flatness. The idea that all the work is becoming homogeneous. All the world is the same. I hate that idea because I think every little country where you go is totally different. You want to avoid that. And you want to avoid the self-satisfaction, I hate that word, self-satisfaction status quo. The idea that in other case where we are today, we cannot be better in another place. So many people say in other case, the slow growth or even the slow recessions and etc. something positive. I don't think we don't. We want to really avoid those four concepts in my opinion. But you want to acknowledge that what happened in the last 20 years have been incredible. And that disruption coming from the whole digital industry is exploding. It's changing our life every day from journalism to financial to education. Look, we have a project in Latin America where we are able to connect through satellite hundreds of thousands of schools in rural areas and give them top education just using television. It was a project that was not even existing 10 years ago. And today, if you live in rural area of Brazil, Chile, or Argentina, you can almost have the same content, education content that you have if you live in Sao Paulo and etc. And this can apply to all the countries from Asia to Africa. For me, this is big. You need to change. You need to remember that disruption is there for that. Sometimes it's complicated, specifically for politics, because disruption brings problems. But at the same time, it's a huge opportunity, in my opinion. You want to take inspiration from other geographies. You want to start believing that what others have done can work also in your country, or at least look at the best practices. And don't look every time, I want to do my own model. I want to do my own stuff. Maybe something will work in a similar economy can work also there. I use Mexico a lot, but you can look a lot of other models. But Mexico for me has been exemplary. You want to, and this is my main job, you want to focus on a regulatory system that don't hinder investment. Okay, this is all about it. Attention, it's not only investment from big corporations, it's investment from small corporations, from startup, from one-man show. You want to ensure that whatever you do, the law doesn't create problems. The law is an opportunity to protect customers and consumers, that's good. But at the same time, when you see roadblocks and you see that there is a problem, change it fast. The best is that it's fast, because if not, most of these young entrepreneurs will move fast. I just met a young entrepreneur in Davos. He's from Indian origins, but he created his own fintech company in Australia and Ireland. The guy is unbelievable. He's, 27 years old. He already created a company that probably is going to be a huge company in the future, trying to disrupt the financial sector. And he's just moving from one place to the others. Now he probably go to San Francisco just to find some funds. It's incredible how the young of today can move when for us it was much more complicated. I'm younger. Last point. Don't focus only on trying to support your national interests or your protected ecosystem or whatever. Don't try to select champions. Champions will come and will develop. Look at, okay, let me use again Ericsson. Look at Ericsson. Every time, every 2-3 years, they almost have to reinvent themselves. Same as our companies, and they do it. And it's big changes, and it's a lot of work. Companies that don't reinvent themselves but are protected start not investing anymore, not innovating anymore. And this is a problem. And this is often too much a problem, trying to protect your local player and etc. Not a good idea. Let's try to get the market open and totally developed. And the real last point, try to look with the investor's eye. Try to look at where the investors will put their money. Try to look at where the capital will go. And try to understand. So many times I see conferences like from Davos, for example, where you have incredible CEOs talking and explaining what are the best models for them. People taking that, but then when they go back home, they don't implement some of this. I'm not saying that you need to do exactly what people say, but try to understand that if you really want to attract that capital for your startups and etc., specifically in new countries or in developing countries, this is essential. Give that clarity to the people and to the investors, and the investments will come. Look at Czech Republic, because Czech Republic have done something in the last, 10 years, 15 years? That is unbelievable. If you go to Prague, you don't only see the beauty of the country, but you see the incredible capacity of that country to create a startup and a tech sector that is huge. My company decided to invest heavily there. And we have a lot of our service centers that are there. Same has been done by the Slovak, just on the other side of the border. But it's incredible. I'm talking about 2 small countries that have been able, because of a very, very smart approach to regulation, but also to investment promotion, etc., to attract huge investments. And today, it's almost impossible to find people in our sector without a job. Constant evolution. This is great. So let's try to look at those best practices, and I think it can work. Thank you.